Excellent. We're live. Right. Well, welcome everyone. We're very sorry. We had some technical problems with Belinda and trying to get on. So unfortunately, we've kind of sort of put that off for now. Maybe we'll speak to her another time when book 2 comes out. But we're going to do sort of a general chat about Inklings Publishing, sort of what's happening, what great things are going on, what sort of offers and surprises we have in store. We have dragged Dan out. And of course I'm joined once again by the wonderful Fern Brady. So Fern, Inklings Publishing, what can we look forward to? What's coming up?
What's coming up? Well, fast and furiously in March and April, we're going to be hosting some writers retreats. You know, we found a beautiful townhome that is off of a lake in Rancho Viejo Country Club, which is like a really exclusive country club. You know, it's got like its own security and all this stuff. It's off of Highway 77 between like Brownsville and Harlingen. So it's, you know, in the really nice climate area. And it is a fantastic little townhome. And so we're taking advantage of it because the owners actually ended up getting transferred to Houston. And so they actually have it for sale, but happily for us, the market, not so happily for them, but the real estate market down there is a little slow. And so I was like, well, you know, they have 2 mortgages, the poor guys, you know. And so since they have those 2 mortgages, we were like, well, we'll do the writers retreats, and that way we can help you pay some of that, you know. And so they were like, okay, that sounds good. So we're going to actually do them March 11, 12, and 13. Hey, Belinda!
Made it!
Yay!
I would not give up.
Perseverance.
What a trooper. What a trooper.
Gosh, I went through Google instead of going through Microsoft. So I just, let me go through Google, because it just kept telling me that I needed to install. It was just crazy.
Well, welcome. We're very glad that you made it. We're on live. And you haven't had a chance to meet Dan. Dan, this is Belinda. Dan is the other part of our creative team for Inklinger Comics, the Theta Comics universe. They are the creators of it. So yeah, we were just talking about the writers retreats, and we were going to talk a little bit about the comic books these guys are working on. But now that you're on, since you're the star of the night,
more questions.
More questions, and he rubs his hands.
Yeah, look at that. And now we brought Dan on board to ask you even tougher questions, because he's like the really tough interrogator in the team.
That is the question master.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
So, Belinda.
Yes.
Talk to us about your book.
Summer vacation is a summer vacation. Well, as you know, Summer Vacation is the first book in my series of children's book, The Adventures of Mackenzie and Kristen. And the first book is dealing with history, and it's basically a little girl learning for the first time about the history of Juneteenth, which is the day that slavery was abolished in Texas. It's actually June 19th, 1865, yeah. So Summer Vacation starts off where a little girl is visiting her family in Texas for the summer, and she comes upon the family preparing for a celebration. And not to give the story away, but it does evolve into an explanation, as a parent would a child, to a group of children on the history of the holiday, the reasons for some of the traditions and the symbolism, and why it's very important as not only a part of African American history, but the history of our country. So that's a rundown of summer vacation.
Well, and let me ask you this, as far as uh-oh, I'm hearing myself again. Oh, okay. Um, so let me just ask you this, with regards to this special holiday.
Yes.
It's not as well known, you know, by most of pretty much America. I mean, I don't know about you guys, if you guys knew about it beforehand. Um, you know,
No.
why is that? Why do you think that this holiday, or this special date is not as well known?
I'm not a native Texan, and I must tell you, until I moved to Texas, I wasn't aware of it. I'm from the Midwest, but I think that may have a little bit to do with it. But I also believe that, it's not necessarily a holiday that would show, um, I think, the Texas history in a very good light because for the most part, slavery was upheld for 2.5 years in Texas when the rest of the nation, abided by the law of the land, which was slavery no more with the Emancipation Proclamation. So I have to think that it's not, a very published holiday. It's a necessary one. And that was almost kind of a background motive, if you will, on wanting to get the book out, was to share the information, and try to put as positive a spin on it as one could, but really focusing on, what we're celebrating, not necessarily, why it happened the way it did, but we are celebrating our freedom and why we're celebrating it and why it's important.
Hmm.
Well, I just want to add, Fern, because I was thinking about this earlier when Belinda, you mentioned about the holiday being on the 19th of June. Now, I don't know if this has clicked in Fern's head, but on the 19th of June, Dan and I are actually going to be down in Houston with Fern at Comic Palooza.
We are.
And I was
You
just thinking,
are.
what a great idea it would be for us to celebrate that together. Because I know I've never celebrated it, and I don't know if Dan has, so maybe we could set that up.
And
That
I nominate Belinda's house.
I
Ooh.
nominate I nominate my house too. Yeah.
Yes, that would be awesome. Oh my God, that is so true. I had totally not realized you guys are actually going to be here for the Juneteenth.
Yeah, yeah. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Okay. Well, you should, as you should, and you'll get to see some of the traditions, but not only that, some of the more, I guess, more public celebrations of it, because there are a lot of things, it starts with the church service, most of them do, but then there's just, an air of a festive air in the city, and, there's parades, and it's a good time. So it's something worth celebrating. And now you can say that I've celebrated Juneteenth.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this year, now we just have to get Meg Halfdoll down here as well, and then the whole team will be together.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
And we are probably going to have at least one, if not two, maybe even three of our artists there as well. So
That's true. That is true. So it could be a whole Inklings family celebration over at your house.
That would be awesome. That
I
would be fun.
I nominate Belinda's house because it's probably a lot cleaner than my house, and and she doesn't have three big large dogs that'll be all over us. So I
No.
definitely think your house, Belinda, would be the best place.
Okay, and I've got, plenty of room. I've got 4 bedrooms, and it's a lot of space. So we can party.
Cool, cool.
Very nice.
brilliant. So, Belinda, I had a question, and I've kind of stolen Fern's question, so I apologise, Fern, but I thought it was a good one. So you have your two main characters in Summer Vacation. Are we, without giving the story away, are we going to see sort of them develop over the course of the series, or what's going to happen with them?
Are we going to see the girls grow up is in the series?
Yeah, or even just kind of their characters develop.
Oh, absolutely, because they are, the entire series is centered around them. And they're, Mackenzie's learning something, and Kristen already knows about it and has been a part of it, but she's very, excited to share the information with her cousin, and she wants her cousin to know. And then there, aunts and uncles that come in, and an older sister that's, part of the story, and they all are, helping one cousin learn about something, but they're also celebrating it. So you can see how they, evolve by reliving it and talking about what they've done, historically for the holiday, and then how the girls kind of, grasp it. But the real, growth in their characters happens throughout each book.
Cool. That sounds great.
If
So
that makes
presumably as they learn, they're kind of developing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
because as the books go on, right, they're kind of exploring, their culture, the societal element. Like in book two is a big, controversial topic they're going to explore, and then, even ending with history, right? Their
Yeah.
heritage and stuff. So it's kind of an exploration of a deepening for the characters, right? Of their.
Yeah, it's helping, as they mature. In the book, the characters are starting junior high, so finished elementary school, and they're going to start, a new school, a new grade, and so we've got that going on. But they're getting more information and more access to the world, and so we're going to see how they process that, and as they, become who they are as people. And we'll learn how, they take the information that they're getting and they apply it when they play with their friends. And so it's not just a data dump on the kids, but, as the stories unfold, you'll see how one will, recall something that they might have learned when they learned something else and apply it to an action or an activity that they're in the next book. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, very much. Because and that's, I think, what's really great about series. And Carl, you have a series, with your same character. So the two of you guys, I mean, it's awesome because you seeing the growth of your characters. When you first meet a character, they don't always, they're not always 100%, as they maybe should be, or their most ideal self. And then as an author, it's interesting to see, how you guys develop them, how you mold them across the series. And I think for readers, I think that's part of the coolness of the series.
Well, and that's also, I mean, as we talked about book two a little, when the story unfolds, you see that they have one perception of a particular word and whether or not it means anything to them. But as the story is told, and as the reader will see, you get to see the girls thinking about what they're hearing and how they're processing the information because of the conversations that they're having. It's not just the parents telling them information. They're asking questions about what they're being told, and they're challenging what they're being told, and they get to, apply it in the story. So it's not just here's the story of a man reading a story to a little girl, or a family sitting around talking about something. They apply it to their daily living. So ideally, that when people read the story, I would like them to identify with that family, to say, this is my family too. I sit around and I talk to my kids, and well, maybe we should be talking about these issues and not just homework or what happened at school today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know when I write, I have kind of a rough outline. I kind of roughly know where I want the story to go, but I found when I actually write, the story almost takes me in the direction it wants to do rather than me take it in the direction I want it to. Do you find that that happens when you write, Belinda, or not?
You know, it's interesting that you say that because the first two books in the series, I basically felt like I had a story to tell. And in doing that, I started out with, you know, the idea, and then I built an outline, and then I did research on the outline, and I built a story. But with the third book that I'm writing right now, I find that, and it's interesting because the story is around a scavenger hunt. I find that, and there's a lot of characters, so it's not just two central characters. There's a big supporting cast in the story, and I find that what you said, as I'm working on the interaction with the characters and their personalities, they're taking me in their story. So they're going down the path, and I'm following, like, yeah, because I don't know if this happens with you, but when you develop a character, they have a personality. And when you start writing their dialogue, you know, well, no, they wouldn't say this, or no, they would say that, or they would say it like this. And if you're being true to your character, they do kind of say, okay, well, you might want them to say it, but that's not how they would process it or talk about it. They would do it this way.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. I can even just think back to, kind of stories I've written, with the characters I've got, and I kind of get to points where I'm thinking, well, maybe they should be doing this, but actually they're saying, no,
Right.
we're doing this. So
Right.
yeah, I'm pleased I'm not the only one who that happens to.
No. Yeah, I think it's like it's taking you where they would go naturally if you're being true to your character. I think that then writing really becomes a joy. I mean, it's a joy anyway, but you really start when you start letting your characters evolve. It really is a good time.
And it's
Be
kind of
surprised.
funny that we have this conversation because, like, this morning I had another author here at my house, and we were talking about this very same thing. And she was saying how she mentioned it to somebody, and somebody was like, "Oh, it's because all of y'all authors are schizophrenic." And I'm like, "No, we're not schizophrenic, you know." And yes, our characters do talk to us. No, we're not schizophrenic. It's part of the muse and the process, but it's true because your characters do take on their own life and they do their own thing, and sometimes you're surprised by what ends up coming out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we've even found it right in the comics. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we sort of come up with these characters, and they're in a scene, and we think one thing and the other thing happens, and then you're like, well, I guess that works because that is who that character is, and there's no kind of getting around it. So.
And don't you find it interesting that when you have no history for taking the story that way. It's just that's how the character processes the scene or the information.
Yeah.
So it's not based on anything you've heard or seen or experienced. This is where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really good sign because it shows that you've got a character and it's a developed character and it's a unique character. It's a character that's going to perhaps do things that you hadn't initially intended. And I quite like that. I mean, I certainly find when we're writing the comics particularly, it's trying not to copy an idea because I've just seen that or I've just read that. But in fact, when the character
Right.
takes them their own way, it's a safety net against all that. So I quite like that.
Yes. It helped me. I mean, I certainly by no means do I understand actors, but I do have kind of an idea of what their character process is when they say they get caught up in a character, and they kind of lose themselves, and I can understand that process now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So, going to you know, the whole series situation, you know, how hard is it? You know, as far as, because both of y'all are series authors and y'all are developing a series of comic books, you know, wrapping up the universe and whatnot. So just to bring all of y'all in, you know, uh, how hard is it to do that, to develop a series, to think, okay, here's the direction it's going to go. And of course, you let it be fluid, like we're talking about. But you know, how hard is it to outline that, you know, that thinking, you know, of how your series is going to go?
Well, for me,
yeah.
I have to, yeah, I just have to kind of let it happen. You know, it's almost like, Fern, you know, when you and I were talking about in the very beginning of about summer vacation and some of what the foundation that's laid in summer vacation and how it's going to kind of chart the path of the other 5 books. If you stay true to, I guess, the core and just let it evolve, it'll happen. But you really have to kind of know where you want to end up. I mean, maybe not exactly, but maybe a destination. You don't know how you're going to get there, but you have a destination in mind. At least
That's a
for
good
my
way to
series.
put it.
Carl.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
No, I said, how do you?
How do we do it? Well,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, with Simmons and Patterson, I kind of have an idea, and I guess, like you say, you've got that destination, and then it's just a case of kind of letting them get there under their own steam. With the comics, we often, I mean, we speak so regularly about the comics and the characters and just the whole universe, and so we very often, from day to day, are almost telling this story. You know, Dan will come downstairs one day, and you know, in the morning, and be like, "What about if this happened?" And we talk about it. Yeah, that's probably what they do. You know, yeah, that sounds about right. That would be really cool. And then I'll come back after work later on, and I'll say, you know, what about if this happened after that? Oh yeah, that would be great. You know, and so we have this dialogue that's just continuous, and trying to explain that to people has been quite challenging for us. You know, we've had our artists ask us, well, how do you do it? You know, when do you work on this? And the answer is always. We're always working on it. You know, I have even been told off by my good lady because I've been in bed messaging Dan with an idea. But, you know, but go to sleep.
That sounds awfully familiar.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing is you know, Dan will be working and I'll message him, and or I'll be sat teaching and my phone's like, what about this? Yeah, that sounds good.
But when you do get that idea, I think, I mean, for me, I feel like I've got to get it out. I got to find something. I don't care what it is, because it's like when it pops in your head that what about or what if moment, you have to capture it. And generally, it's pretty intense, and it's probably really good stuff.
Yeah, we often have like a lightning bolt moment, and I'll know because I'll see Dan's face, and there's a particular face he has, and I'm sure I'm the same, and I'll be like, oh, this is going to be good, and you know, and then it's sort of about letting the other one have space to breathe and actually get the ideas out, and then I'll bounce off that, or Dan will bounce off mine, and we'll you know, we kind of bat it backwards and forwards in a very short space of time and come up with an idea that we're like, oh, we really like that. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, it's always happening.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just, yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm asking a question, although I have a question about your character development, if I may.
Yeah.
Do you feel, I don't know, territorial about your characters? I know I feel like they're my kids, you know, and I don't, do you know what I mean? In terms of if people come up to you with ideas or they want your characters or storyline to go a different way, you kind of go, well, no, they're mine. I'm going to take care of them. That's the way I feel about my characters.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had that moment on Thursday. We met with one of our artists, and they said, "Oh, you know, I was talking to my professor today, and they suggested, what about if this happened and that happened?" And Dan and I were like, "Okay, interesting idea." And then we got home, we were like, "No, that's our character. No, that's not happening. No."
Yeah.
We are definitely protective, and I think one of the great points about how Dan and I work is quite often we might come up with a character individually and then kind of pitch it to the other, and I think we're very conscious about not kind of writing the character how we see them when it's their character. So
Right.
we certainly. Somebody actually said to us the other day, "Have you had any arguments?" And we said no. You know, and we are blessed to have such a great working relationship that we can kind of you know, have our own kind of personal parts to it, but we can also share it with the other, and I think that's a great credit to the series, and hopefully that will come out in the comics themselves.
I think you guys have an additional challenge because you guys have, you know, you're co-writing this series of comics, but on top of that, you've got to collaborate and communicate your vision to artists who then, you know, have their own you know, input, and they want to put their mark on it too.
And in a way, we actually use that. We kind of cheat in a way because, you know, we come up with a character and we have an idea of roughly what they're going to look like and roughly what they're going to do, and then we give it to the artist and say, you can have your stamp on it. You know, you put your stamp on it and give us a little bit about what you think it's going to look like, and that really helps us because they bring it to life. We then see the character and we're like, wow, we didn't think it was going to look like that, but that's great, you know, and so I suppose as much as we're creating characters between Dan and I, we're also actually creating the character with the artist, and I think that really brings in an additional dimension to the characters, which I feel sometimes I don't always get with Simmons and Patterson because it's just me. And I'll bounce them off my wife. Yeah, I'll get my violin out. But you know, whereas the comic book characters, I think they've got more depth to them.
And Belinda, you also have to communicate with your artist for your covers and stuff.
Yes.
Have you found it a challenge to, you know, kind of convey what you want or your vision? I mean, because your books are for older kids, so it doesn't have a lot of pictures on the inside, but you've got your cover and stuff. I mean, have you found it difficult, or, you know, how do you feel about collaborating with your illustrator, who is fabulous?
Yes, she is very, very talented, and I'll tell you that I think that was just divine intervention, because before, you know, you presented this artist with me, I actually went on a freelance network and had 117 artists apply to do the cover. Now, of course, I mean, it was from they were from Great Britain, there was somebody from Buenos Aires, and you know, okay, but you know, the ones that I really looked at their work and I was interested in, I couldn't. There was no truly, you know, real capturing the story. And I mean, I had one artist, when I told them what the story was about, they drew a picture of two little girls in Aunt Jemima outfits, and I'm like, well, that wasn't cute, but you know, they're two little girls. They're not in slavery, and so I think that it's the artist, and you have to know when they hear your work, they hear you and they see your work, and they know that this is what she sees. This is what I'm seeing as I'm writing their dialogue. This is how the little girls look. And I was truly stunned when I saw Rosa's work for the first time, because I did find an artist that I really was leaning toward, and they hadn't quite got it. And it was like, I see Rosa's work, and it was like, this is it. You know, it was like you see so many artists and so many renderings, and then this one comes, and you say, okay, they got it. And I had not even met her. I think she might have talked to you about the characters, Fern.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did meet and we talked about it further, I mean, I knew what I wanted them to look like. She knew, and then it was just her creating the theme. And then now we're on book 2. I've looked at the cover, and again, it was like 1 or 2 conversations, and you know, she understands that they're little girls, they're preteens, and you know, she gets it. But it's truly not something that happens. I think it's a rarity that you can communicate with an artist and then they can produce what you visualize as a writer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it definitely depends on the. Uh-oh. Oh. I think it does depend on the connection that's made. I think that you and Rosa see the same thing. You know, the
Yes.
author and the illustrator have to come to a point where you guys see the same thing. You're seeing, you know, and each of you brings your flavor to it, but, you know, there's this connection. And I think it happens with you guys, with your artists, you know, because they're actually dealing with 3 illustrators, right? Jeff, Jason, and Rosa. Rosa's one of their illustrators, too.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
you know, and so you've got to connect with these 3 in the 3 different projects. There's this cohesive vision of the universe, but then there's the individuality of each project. So how do you guys find, you know, working with y'all's artist?
Well, I think we should probably give a shout out to Rosa first, because really without Rosa, the comics would not be anywhere near what they are at the moment. I'm pretty sure that that first day that Rosa sent me a picture of the concept art of Dreamer, our sort of flagship character, we were just bowled over. We just were absolutely astonished at what she'd created, and we knew right there that was our character, and that's and from there really it's just been a joy working with her, and it is interesting. I mean, we really do have 3 very different artists. We've got Jeff, who is kind of the oldest member of our team. He's a full-time artist with a young child. You know, so he kind of has the advantage that he can get stuff done very quickly, and we're very confident in what he can do. You know, so we've got him on the one hand, and then we've got like Jason, who's a college student, very talented. You know, lots of potential, and like Rosa wants to kind of get into the comic book industry, and you know, and he's very enthusiastic and he's got lots of great ideas, but at the same time he's quite nervous. He's nervous about, you know, failing and creating something that we don't like, which is very difficult. We haven't found anybody yet that has created something we don't like, and so we've had to kind of give him a lot of guidance and also support him for his confidence. So, you know, that's quite different. And then Rosa, who obviously, you know, she's down with you guys in Houston, you know, we've kind of done a similar thing with her in the sense of giving her that guidance and support, and to try and to kind of bring it all together. So it's interesting.
It is very interesting.
And it's fun, but it's also scary, and it's a kind of a big mixed bag of emotions, and you know, and then you throw into the mixed deadlines, and it really starts to become fun. You know, and I got a phone call from Jeff the other week saying he'd had an accident, and automatically I thought, oh no, has he been in a car accident? And he said, oh, I'm absolutely fine physically, but mentally I'm a wreck. And I thought, uh-oh. And it turned out that he was carrying his child, and he was carrying his lunch, and his child knocked his bowl of chili and soda over the stack of work that he'd been working on for the comic.
Oh my.
and had a mad panic. And so he was like, right, well, I'm going to make a homemade light box and I'm going to trace it all out again and it'll be done. Don't worry. I was like, okay. So yeah, it's exciting, and I think as kind of in our roles as president and vice president of the comic book division, we probably see a side of the comics that we wouldn't necessarily see as an author. You know, that kind of the logistics of running around after people and checking that everything's kind of where it should be at the right times and planning out production timelines and thinking, well, if this artist is doing this series and this one's doing this series, well, you know, when are we going to have those released? So there's a lot to it, and it's enjoyable.
It is.
And by the way, we have not mentioned this, but Belinda has agreed to be the president of Inkling's Children Division. So
Yeah.
she is on board now.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
She has no idea how much work we're about to like have her do.
We won't tell her if you don't, Fern.
Forward to it.
That's brilliant.
And you know what's wonderful, and I've got to tell you guys, I mean, for me, from my perspective, you know, having all these wonderful authors and illustrators that I'm working with, and seeing, you know, I made up the motto by authors for authors, right? Because I'm an author. But now, you know, Belinda is in charge of our Inklings Children Division, and she's one of our authors. So it's by our authors for our next authors, right? And you guys are our authors, and you've taken on, you know, the Inklinger comics. So it, you know, the Inklings is slowly acquiring, you know, the leadership personnel from our authors, which I think is really, really cool. I mean, I think it's awesome that you guys are stepping up.
We love
And
it.
and your pay, you know, your pay is so reasonable. I love that.
Oh.
I tell you, that company car that you sent up as well.
No, you guys wait till you get the jet.
Oh,
Oh,
I think that's a Houston exclusive thing.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you know.
you have to come on down here, people.
Yeah,
Soon, if we could.
we could get to Houston a lot quicker with a jet. I mean,
Yeah.
let's put that in the next AGM.
Okay. Well, you know, Fern, I think for me, and I'm sure Carl and Dan feel the same. You know, we believe in you, and you have a vision. You have, you know, we believe in what you've done, and how, you know, you're very talented and you're very creative, and what you've put together as an organization, I mean, it's a privilege to be a part of it.
Well, I'm glad y'all think that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, you had the guts to do something that I'm sure we all dreamed of doing but never did do.
Yeah.
And, you know.
You know, companies are people. At the end of the day, companies are people. They're not buildings, they're not brick and mortar, they're people. And it really matters who you are working with.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because I tell you, for 15 years, well, you know, the whole 15 years wasn't horrible, but the last few years that I was teaching, you know, there were people in the building that were awesome and that made it a beautiful place for me to go. But then there were key people, and unfortunately they were key people in leadership that made it very difficult. And when you get to that point, you're just like, okay, I need to do something different, because, you know, I spend way too much time at work, you know, to do this. And so it is, I agree, it has to be the people. And I think that's why, you know, I am very picky about, you know, who we bring on board as our authors, and you guys are just amazing. I mean, you guys are wonderful to work with and wonderful to plan with, and, you know, I think it's going to be an awesome thing to do. And my mom thinks I'm nuts. She thinks I'm nuts. She's like worried. She told me the other day, she's like, I'm really worried about you. You're doing this. It's a very hard industry. I'm like, yeah, but I think it's going to happen, you know, because I'm looking at you guys, you know, and I'm thinking we've got great talent. on board. You know, we're really going to make it.
And I think those experiences, I mean, I know I've been in situations, like you say, Fern, where, you know, you've got key people who just are in leadership and they're not making it a pleasant place. And I think that, certainly for me, is a huge kind of help in being a leader myself. You know, when I'm talking to my artists and when I'm talking with Dan and you know, it helps to have had that experience to know what I don't want to be like, so that, you know, when an artist comes to me and says, oh, you know, I'm really struggling to meet this, you know, I can approach them in an approachable way and in an encouraging way, rather than well, you know, you're the worst person ever, go away, I don't want to see you, you're smelly, you know. Because that's my fallback insult. Yeah, that happened. My shower was broken.
But we can all thank our bad bosses. Thank them. Right. Everyone has had a bad boss. Thank them, because we know what not to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
That, I mean, hey, we're all trying to do the same thing. Nobody comes to work to say, let me screw something up. Let me see how I can mess this up and not get paid. Yeah, no, nobody.
Yeah, no, that's nobody's plan. But you know what? It's very true, and I think, you know, I've made this distinction before, you know, in conversations, that there's a difference between a leader and a taskmaster. And unfortunately, a lot of bosses are more taskmasters. They're more like, okay, get to work, slave, work, you know, and they're not leaders. And if you're going to be a leader, you've got to be able to inspire a vision. Which, you know, when you say to me, you know, that you believe in what I'm doing, I think that's what I'm giving you, a vision, you know. And I think that as I'm hopefully, you know, inspiring all of us to create this vision together, you know, which ultimately is what's most successful, you know, is collaborating and helping each other.
Definitely.
Yes.
And that brings us to a great, I guess, point to mention where people can buy the books that Inklings produces, because for those watching who perhaps haven't followed us much already, it might be worth just mentioning where they can purchase said books.
Well, of course, we're on Amazon, because, you know, who isn't on Amazon? You know, you have to sell your book on Amazon. And we're, you know, Amazon you know, print on demand. You can get paper copies, and we're also on Kindle. And eventually, hopefully by end of April, we will also be kind of aggregated to other sites, you know, so that if you have a Nook or if you have a Kobo or whatever, you'll also be able to get it on some of these other sites. And then, of course, you can always get our books off Inkling's website, you know, inklingspublishing.com. You can get it off our store. And if you shop on our store, the cool thing about it is that you can get special packages that you can't get on Amazon. In February here, we have our We Love Mystery combo, and we have your first book, The Ghost of the Bay House, paired up with the Eclectically Criminal. So, you know, and your book sells for $14.95. Eclectically Criminal sells for $10. So to buy both, you would spend $24. But, you know, with the combo, you're getting them both for $17. So those kinds of special deals are the ones that you can get, you know, on our website, that make it a good place to go shop. Plus, we have other merchandise. I mean, we have some really cute cups with really hot purple lips on them and stuff like that, you know. So you can get some cute stuff up there, and eventually we have to put your t-shirts, that are comic t-shirts, up there too, and stuff too. So those are kind of the places. And of course, you need to follow our website and our Facebook page to know where we're going to be, because you can get books live, you know, in person venues where we're selling. And when we do these, you know, a lot of times we have our authors there to sign, like Belinda. This past weekend, she was with us at the Houston Authors Bash. And, you know, she got to meet some people there and got to sign her book. So, you know, definitely, you know, check us out at the in-person venues, because then you can get like signed copies, you know.
Definitely. And as we said before, Facebook is kind of place to to find us. We've all got our own pages. Inklings Publishing has their page. I have a Simmons and Patterson page. We're going to get Belinda set up with her page, which is going to be great. Theta Comics has got its own page as well. And you know, if you've got questions, you can ask them on there. Send us emails to inklingspublishing@gmail.com. Other things that we do. We do so much, it's hard to remember it all.
Well, I do want to return real quick, because when we started, we were talking about the writers' retreats.
Yes.
And I do, before we close for the evening, I do want to say, you know, we're going to be doing 2. It's going to be one March 11, 12, and 13, and the other one is April 15, 16, and 17. And you know, there's 2 different prices. Like if you want to stay on your own in a hotel or whatever, there's a different price, and if you want to stay in the house with us, you know, it's a different price. But either way, you get, you know, meals, and you get all the retreat materials and a fun creative time. So, you know, and you can purchase these on our website, and it is very limited space because we do want to keep them small, because in small groups you're going to get a lot more than a very, very large group. So you know, if you're interested, you know, if anybody who's watching is an author and is interested, go to our website. It's on the homepage, and you can just register from there.
Brilliant.
The retreats, Fern, what location?
They're going to be in Rancho Viejo, Texas, which is a little country club. It's off of the Highway 77 between Harlingen and Brownsville. And the little townhome there is right off the lake, and there's pictures of it on our, if you click the link, you know, for the retreat, there's wonderful pictures of it. I mean, it's beautiful. The country club itself has great places to walk around, and, you know, private security and stuff. I mean, it's a really great location, you know.
Okay.
I definitely think we're going to need some pictures, Fern, because that might be a great setting for a comic book series.
It is. It really is. I mean, look on the website. It's a beautiful. I mean, it's the lake pictures from the townhouse. You know, when you're sitting out there and you're writing, they're just so beautiful. It's like the most perfect place to go and just sit and write. You know.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, I guess that really kind of brings us to the end of tonight's discussion chat interview. We'd like to once again thank Belinda for being with us today. It's been absolutely a pleasure to have you on and to hear about Summer Vacation and the series. You know, if you haven't already purchased it, go out and buy it, because it's absolutely great, and you'll really enjoy it. And thanks again to you, Fern, for being with us. As always, it's brilliant, and thank you to Dan for being here for the first time, definitely not the last. We will get him another time. And thank you to all our viewers for watching, those who are either watching live or who will be watching in the future. Do come back and watch the other videos we've got. We've got 2 interviews with Meg Haftel that are available to watch. We've also got 2 interviews with me. If you get really bored, you could always watch those. And obviously we've got Belinda's from this afternoon and also from this evening. So from all of us, a big thank you and a good night.
Awesome.
Good night.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.